Do you think the parents should not push their own culture, especially immigrant parents should not push their own culture on their children? Or let me reword that. To what extent do you think the parents should or can push their own culture on their kids?
Well, I don't think, I think maybe push is a problem, the word. I think, first of all, culture is not fixed. Even culture back home, whatever home is constantly changing. In the book, I give a little vignette of these two young Bangladeshi girls whose parents were taken back to Bangladesh. Um, Throughout their life in Arizona, they constantly telling them, no, don't do that. We're Bengali, you know, we don't behave that way. Those are Americans that do that. And on this journey, the kids, the mom had, you know, traditional
What kind of behavior were they?
traditional Bengali clothes. Sorry?
Do you know what kind of behavior they were telling the kids? No, don't do that. Only Americans.
Well, you know, things like, you know, don't, through you will see through the book that anytime that parents don't like what the kids are doing, it's like, oh, don't be too American, don't talk back, that's Americans, you know, we don't go out to the malls, that's not Muslim.
Don't
You
argue
know,
so much. All these types of things.
you know, right. There is also, you know, you can't go to the theater to watch a play. That's not a Muslim or, you know, a Bengali thing or Arab thing or Somali thing, you know, just fill in the blanks. And the girls told me how, while they were traveling, their mom had in a carry-on their traditional clothing so that on the plane, before they get out of the plane, they are dressed appropriately like proper Bengali girls. And they go and they dress, and they say that when they got there, they looked like their grandparents, like their grandmother's generation, and the kids their age were not dressed like that. So culture and culture back home tends to freeze in the moment of immigration. And even immigrants, when they go back home, themselves feel like things have changed. So I think to answer your question is, I think it's important to pass on one's culture. And the important part is they don't have to be in opposition. They don't have to be like and a zero-sum game. The more Bengali you are, or the more Somali or Egyptian you are, the less American you are. So it could be, if it's seen as a source of enrichment and and has an added value, then I think the kids are not going to be resisting to it. But also some practices just may not make any sense either in Egypt now, you know, the country that has originated the cultural practice, maybe themselves don't practice that anymore. Maybe it was a class-based cultural practice rather than even a quote unquote, you know, an Egyptian or an Bengali practice, and see how important are those things. Your kids are American, they live here, they're born here, they're part of this society. And by the way, so are you, and you are changing in subtle ways that you may not notice it, but you are not the person who landed. Your taste is different, your home decor is different, your interaction when you go back is different, you carry yourself, you'll stick out like a sore thumb when you go back to your country of origin. Have changed by even being here, let alone a child who's born in here. So if you make them feel home and, you know, decorate that home with important parts, or parts that are important to you from back home, language and food and certain practices, I think kids will not resist it if they see that it's, you know, if it's framed in a positive way and not pushed like, do this, otherwise, oh my God, you know, you're disobedient and you are breaking your mom's heart and so forth.
So maybe it's it would just be easier for both the parents and the children if the parents understand that their children are different than them and accept.
That they are also different.
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah, there's this within the immigrant community, there's this idea of wanting to hold on to everything from back home. There's this nostalgia for back home and everything, what your culture back home represents. And so there's this need to push these ideas that you have in your head on your children. You want them to have, even though you don't do that yourself sometimes, there's this need to just push it because it feels everything is going so fast and your children are growing up and they're completely different from you. And so I can see how that's a problem for the younger generation.